Welcome, YouTube. That's a little bit different for me. This is my first post on my new channel. For those of you who are following me over from my Texas Mother Trucker channel, I am going to be a little bit more serious. That's bullshit. I'm going to be a lot more serious here as we're going to be talking about all of the different topics in my book. So, dun, dun, dun. Sorry, ring light is in the way. Dysfunctionally Functional is something that I have copyrighted, and it is going to be not only my merchandise, but really me as a brand. Why is this important? Super simple answer. I've lived a pretty extraordinary life. And not in like I've traveled the world and seen the Taj Mahal kind of way. I'm going to read the back part of this book. The back cover. Yeah, that's me. I'm going to read the back cover. And I think that this day and time, especially with the pandemic and just the way society is moving these days, that we are being really, really distracted. And so during my quarantine time and with my stimulus money, I decided to go ahead and take an investment on a project I had had on the back burner for more than 15 years. And we discussed it as a family and said, you know what, our story could really help a lot of people. So along the years, family members passed away, fights happen, shit happens, life happens, and then nobody wanted me to write the book. But I'm the oldest, I have the most stories, and I am that bitch. I am an activist. I've always been known as being the voice for the voiceless. So here I am yet again doing just that. So the book is written from my perspective, my point of view. It's not a throw people under the bus kind of book. It's not a trash book. But there are some really, really heavy and taboo topics that happen daily to people on the daily basis. And it doesn't get covered by the media because it doesn't fit their narrative. Right now we're in a political season and nobody cares that 1-month-old babies are getting sold into sex trades to get raped by 40-year-old men. That's not important. And that doesn't have to do with, R versus D. So I decided this was a prime time to come out and just use this time. One of the things that people say every day is, oh, I just don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. Well, the universe said, hey, you've been praying. You've been begging. You want more time. Here the fuck you go. Here's all the time, and people are still acting stupid. I chose to use that time wisely, and here I am. So, I will be coming every Wednesday and Sunday. For the most part, in the beginning, I'm going to try on Sundays because I do work a full-time job. I run a health clinic, and I am also a full-time truck driver. Right now, I'm on medical leave, so I'm able to answer calls virtually. Patient-wise, just to keep money coming in. But I'm on medical leave from trucking. I work for Swift Transportation. I love them. This is not what we came here to talk about. So just a little bit of history about me. I have so many certifications in so many different things, from American culinary, French culinary. I am a certified sommelier. Like the list goes on and on and on and on. But truck driving saved my life. And I will go into that as we get into books 3 and 4. So, having said all of that, that's the introduction of me. My name is Teresa. I go by T. Hopefully this is not backwards. My husband made a point. He was like, is that going to be backwards to the viewers? I don't fucking know. I guess we'll find out when it's over, right? So, my biggest thing is if you don't like the story that you're living, then write a new one. Every day is a new day and a new shot for you to do it again. We can't change what happened 5 minutes ago, but we can change what happens 5 minutes from now. But every day we just get stuck in, this wheel of just constantly doing the same things over and over and over again. And then we become kind of cumbersome and we become stagnant in our lives. And then we just become these robots that are just going through motions and we stop actually living. Nicki Minaj said it best, just because you're alive doesn't mean that you're living, or just because you're living doesn't mean that you're alive. However the fuck she said it, it was a long time ago, and she's kind of been canceled, so, there's that. But my biggest thing is breaking the chains that bind families, hereditary bullshit, and issues. I come from a very dramatic and tragic, and yet half of it's famous, family that has the hugest divide. And this book right here tells a lot about that and why the famous part of the family didn't want to have anything to do with the part of the family that I am directly related to. And it's just shit that I have seen and gone through that Hollywood couldn't write if they tried with all their quarantine time. This is more of a true crime story than anything. It's my real life. I am 40 years old. I have 3 children. I've been married to my husband for 18 years. We've been together for 19 years. And this year I came out as a full-blown lesbian. So that's just what's going on today. So we get into that a little bit more. I didn't come into this relationship as a lesbian at all, but I struggled. I came in definitely bisexual, and you're going to get to see all of the transformations, primarily speaking of me, but the transformations of the characters, i.e. my family, through the book, and how all of this tragedy, this person trying to kill this person, and this person almost dying, and this person being left for dead, like all of these different things that are in this book, how we took all of our negatives and turned them into positives. And I personally now have been an activist in the community for animals, for civil rights, for women. I have a tattoo to raise awareness. The End It movement is all about sex trafficking. I live in Houston, Texas, even though I'm from Louisiana. Houston, Texas is the epicenter for sex and human trafficking in the United States. So, and I live like right in the hub, just 15 miles up the highway. So it's really, really important, and it's very personal to me. So one of the biggest takeaways from this channel is that pain breeds passion. If I get really ignorant, or I become belligerent, or I become defensive, 9 times out of 10, I'm coming from a place of passion, something that has pained me and has scarred me in a way that it is super important for me to get my point across. So that's what I'm going to be bringing you each week. My marketing team would love for me to do Wednesdays and Sundays, which Wednesday and Sundays, I'll put all of my links in the description. I do post, I just made my book trailer today. I do post my social media content for marketing on Wednesdays and Sundays. And so I will leave all of those links down in the description box. You just hit subscribe and hit the notification bell, and we'll keep this train moving. So, having said all of that, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you come at me with dumb shit, I'm not going to pay any attention to you. I have given so much of my life to negative people and negativity in general, primarily from my family, that I just choose not to participate in that anymore. So you can say whatever you want. Nothing you say is ever going to affect me because I'm 10 feet tall and bulletproof. So for the real people out there that are the reason that I decided to tell my story, please feel free to reach out at any of the sources that I leave, and I will get back to you no matter how busy I am. And like I said, right now I'm on medical leave for obvious personal reasons that I do not wish to discuss. But yeah, let's get into it. So the back cover says, so the book, Dysfunctionally Functional, the whole series, all 4 books are going to be called Dysfunctionally Functional. What's cool about these books is this one does not have a subtitle, but the other 3 do. Every chapter of the book is a song. So music plays a really, really big part of my life. You'll find out why in this book. Music plays a huge, huge factor in my life. It always has. So every chapter is titled with a song. And at the end of book 4, we're going to put together a compilation series that you can purchase for a cheap price. And you will get not only a free ticket to a symposium at the city of your choice on the list of 37 cities to come meet, greet, have me autograph your book and take a picture with me, but you'll also have a free download link to the soundtrack of my life. So, moving forward, right now I'm halfway through book 2. It is called Dysfunctionally Functional, and the subtitle is Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. So, we'll go through the chapters real quick. They told me I have to keep these videos at like 15 minutes most, or 20 at the most, 15. Preferably, if you go to my other channel, my videos like go for hours, but we're going to try to be professional. So these chapters are Welcome to My Life, On the Road Again, Chasing the Sky. I highly recommend, even if you are not a fan of the show Empire, especially after Jussie Smollett, or however the fuck you say his name, pulled his stupid shit. I couldn't even finish it. Like, I don't support stupidity and ignorance. But Chasing the Sky, you have to hear the song to understand this chapter. You have to listen to the lyrics. I promise it's life-changing. Chapter 4 is Die Motherfucker Die. Chapter 5, Should I Stay or Should I Go Now? Chapter 6, Truly Madly Deeply. Followed by Chapter 7, Wonderwall. Chapter 8, Papa Don't Preach. I wonder what happens in Chapter 8. In this book, I'm ages 4 through 22, by the way. So, just saying. Chapter 9 is How Could This Happen to Me? Number 10, or Chapter 10 is All by Myself. Followed by 11, Could This Be Love? And number 12, Walking on Sunshine. So, if you know any of these songs, you already know you're about to go into some roller coaster shit. So, that's exactly what we put on the back. The back of the book says, go on a roller coaster ride of love, hate, addiction, murder, drugs, alcohol, gang, family business, fame, domestic abuse, rape, molestation, life, and ultimately death, with Teresa as she takes you on a walk down memory lane and how she became to be the inspiring woman she is today. Sometimes you need more than courage to get through the day, and sometimes you need words from a soul that came from the same stars, or at least are going through the same hell as you. This is Teresa De Leon at her most vulnerable, yet most vibrant. Read all about her struggles and how she overcame it all, because in the end, all that matters is how well we walk through the storm, find motivation and a comforting friend tucked between these pages. So, if you haven't noticed, probably not, because my studio is still being set up. I am not your typical, I walk into a hospital if I'm nursing and be like, hey, can I take care of you? And they're like, holy shit, like, can I get a drug test? I have been through a lot. But my purpose in doing this is, one, healing. It wasn't until a few years ago that I was constantly being diagnosed with bipolar disorder since I was a child. And it wasn't until a few years ago, after the doctor that I was working for had listened to little bits and pieces of my life here and there, and she was like, oh my God, she was like, I think you suffer from PTSD. And I was like, oh no, I've never been to the military. And I'm super smart and I'm super intelligent, but when it comes to like really simple stuff, I can get really dumb and dorky and corny. I don't take myself too seriously sometimes. But she said, you should write a book. And I really do think this is a thing. So I went to a therapist, did find out I do suffer from PTSD from all of the trauma that I've carried around with me all of my life. So now I can talk about all of these chapters in this book, and I can talk about them openly, freely. I've been mentoring people for a very, very, very long time and kind of been like a life coach to people. And now I just decided, my husband used to say, hey, are you ever going to like get paid for all the time that you spend with these people? And so the publishing company and Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and all the fine people at HarperCollins decided that, you know what, he's on to something. So this is just an intro into who I am. Doesn't even scratch the surface. Like, we didn't even finish parking the car in the parking lot today, but 15 minutes is a short amount of time. So I will come on here with a topic every week for you, and eventually I'll be able to do every Wednesday and Sunday as I do my social media content. And if you have any suggestions and comments and questions, please, please, please reach out. So primarily the topics that are talked about are the ones on the back of the book. But the most important to me as a victim, either by watching it, because if there's one point that you walk away from other than pain breeds passion today, it's that as a child, this book almost got a parental and explicit content label put on it, which is almost never done on books. The reason being is that it's very graphic and it's very raw, and I actually toned it down a lot. But to me, especially with younger generations, things need to be real. They need to make you feel some type of way. And if they don't, then it's that bitch went through some shit, whatever, she's figuring it out, she's living her best life, who gives a fuck? And it's that kind of mentality that keeps activists and other people like me who do give a shit about what's going on in the world, it keeps us up all night. It doesn't matter if I drive 15 hours a day, or, a 15-hour shift, drive 12 hours a day, whatever the case may be. When I get out of my seat at night, I'm just like, damn, what about this? I'm looking at the news and I'm like looking for facts, trying to save kids, trying to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it's those kind of people with that nonchalant attitude, that's the reason that this country is torn into, I can't even say two pieces anymore. It's fucking obliterated. And that's kind of how my life was. My parents, I can't even say that they were friends most of the time. They were both trying to kill each other half of the time. But my dad was very, very, very physically abusive to my mom for many, many years. He was a severe drug addict for many, many years. He did get sober later in life, and he was a terrific grandpa. I miss him. I miss him a lot. This is him here. We'll get into his story a little bit later. But to this day, I don't have a relationship with my mom, even though she's a huge victim in the book. And a lot of that has to do with resentment. And I think that carries over into, if you have resentment toward either of your parents or just the way you were raised as a child, that carries over into your adult life. And unless you seek medical attention for why you're so angry, if somebody tells you that you're crazy more often than not, or people be like, hey, you want to go meet some new friends of mine, and then the friends are like pulling their friends away, and they're like, hey, who is this crazy bitch that you've brought over? If you're always that bitch or that dude, like, you put off this energy like, ugh, I've been hurt enough, I've built my walls, you can't tamper with me, I'm ready to throw down, and you're just ready to fucking take the whole world on. And that's not really a good way to live, because that kind of energy breeds that kind of energy. So if you're talking about putting positive vibes out there and then you're like, yo, motherfucker, what's up, every time somebody looks at you funny at Walmart, then, you know, your positive vibes mean shit. I don't want your positive vibes. I want, like, you know, Jimi Hendrix positive vibes. You know, I'm trying to live the high life. So when I realized that I was self-harming myself, not anymore in a cutting form, we get into that, but more so I was destructive in relationships. Even though my husband and I have been together forever, my oldest daughter I had with my high school sweetheart, pause for dramatic effect, we don't even speak to each other anymore. He didn't come into the picture till she was 6. We'll get into that later. But there was so much hate and pain and all of these things that I thought that I got over whenever I got married. Well, then sperm donor decides to come back into the picture, and it's just like, wow, slap in the face. He knew that he could control my heart, and so bam, here I am on the fucking hamster wheel again. So these kind of relationships young kids go through. My other 2 children, my oldest is in the Air Force, but my other 2 children, my son's going to be 16 tomorrow, and on November 6th, my youngest will be 13. And they're going through the same shit that I went through, and the same shit that most of us went through in our junior high and high school years. Granted, they're doing it virtually, but it's still, when you start tugging with your hormones and your feelings and stuff, that's dangerous territory, especially during a fucking pandemic. But there are women that are going to watch this video that are being abused, whether it be mentally, psychologically, or verbally, or even spiritually. There are going to be men that are being physically, mentally, and verbally and spiritually abused. And there's going to be children of these parents that may not be being physically abused. My dad never harmed me. My dad never harmed any of us kids. We were terrified of him because we saw what he was able to do to my mom, and we were like, we don't want what she's getting. So, you know, we lived in a regime, so to speak. And I know a lot of people will come for me for using the word regime. Just let's get this out of the way. I'm really compared to being the female Howard Stern. I don't care about your opinions, your sensitive feelings. If you want to come and cry about me using certain words that you feel are out of context, I could care less. Could care less. I am from Generation X, and I don't give a fuck. I am here to help people navigate through very, very rough and treacherous waters. My mom suffered up until the day my dad died. And we didn't know he was dying. And granted, they were married and divorced to each other for 3 or 4 times. And they weren't together. He was actually living in my home, helping me go through some medical stuff. It still was a huge loss for all of us, including my mom. You would think that, like, the person who berated her and damn near killed her on a regular basis, she'd be happy. She couldn't even finish reading his eulogy. So there's a part of relationships and entanglement that becomes this toxicity that we become comforted by. And society doesn't like to talk about that. We don't talk about what goes on behind people's closed doors. That's taboo. That's their business. But is it really? Because if somebody's being abused and they don't have a way out, then somebody like me or the police or an advocate of some other sort, somebody needs to step in and say, hey, you want out? Come with me. I have the, resources, the network, the people, the doctors, the cops, whatever you need, we're going to help you get out. If you are a child and you are watching this and you are like me, or you are like I was, when I would hear, you could feel the tension building up. I knew when my dad was about to go off all the time. We all did. And I would shelter my siblings, and we would get in our closet and we would just cover our ears and we would just play our little Walkman so loud and just kind of hold each other tight until we heard the screaming and the crashing and the smashing and whatever. We just heard all the chaos stop. That fucks with us. And when I started truck driving last year, about a year and a half ago, you know, anytime I would hear, like on the weekends, truck drivers don't like to drive, whatever, pussies. I'd love to drive 7 days a week, so I'm just throwing shade. But, you know, they get drunk in the parking lot, and then I would be asleep, and I would hear the escalation of the voices. I could feel that tension rising, and that's really when it started dawning on me that I had triggers. So to think that here I am at 40 years old, I've accomplished all of these things that I have accomplished. I'm published, I'm printed for doing all kinds of other great things and all these accolades. All of that shit aside, a bunch of men screaming in a parking lot can take me back to being 4 years old in an instant. That is not living. That is simply being alive. And so now I want to use my story and my testimony really to let people know that there is hope. You always have a choice. You may not feel like you have one. Trust me, the people that have reached out to me already, my book's been out for a while now, but the people who have reached out to me and they're like, no, you don't understand. No, you don't understand. No, I may not understand your specific situation because I wasn't the one that was abused. My mom was, and she just kept tagging us along. Like, you know, our family outings were like running away to motels to get away from my dad that always found us. Those were our family outings. To this day, my family has never gone on a vacation. Don't even know what that is. We weren't allowed to sit on his couch. We weren't allowed to utilize his electronics. We weren't allowed to even really talk to him or my mom. Family dinners wasn't a thing. If we had a bad day at school and I was treacherously bullied, there was no one. I was it. I was the caretaker of both my parents and my siblings. I was the midway person. So if any of this stuff is hitting home for you and any of this stuff is ringing any bells, the lights, the whistles, whatever it is that triggers you, that's why I'm doing this. My family absolutely hates. They were excited that I was writing a book, but I don't think that they understood what I was going to be writing about because I am the oldest. And my parents were shocked at the stuff that I remembered. And my mom, you know, she didn't have the best reputation growing up. She still doesn't have the best reputation. She's working on it. But of course, now that my dad's gone, you know, she's like, oh, everything he said was a lie and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, it is what it is. Sometimes the most toxic people in your lives are the ones that are supposed to be the closest to you and the ones that are supposed to protect you. And so often that's not the case. But young girls, young boys in these relationships where you just feel that you have to have that attachment, that connection. If that person's willing to give you a thread off of their fucking sweater, you're going to hang on for dear life. That shit is so toxic and it will fuck up the entire rest of your life. You need to get the fuck out. When you wake up in the morning, I'm not saying there's going to be rainbow and sunshines and that there's not going to be little birds chirping at your window, but the person that you're with should make you smile all the time, should be able to finish your sentences, should be able to, you know the things that you want and get them before you even realize that you need them or that you're out of them. This should be your partner in life, not somebody that your downs are way more than your ups and you're constantly laying in bed at night wondering, when am I going to find my forever after? Like, where's my happy ever after? If that's what you're going through, even if it's not violent, you need to wake the fuck up and get out. And 2020 has been crazy. It has been. For most people. Thankfully, in my family, we're thriving in 2020, and that's wonderful. But I want to use this time to share these little pearls of wisdom with you all and help. There's so many people committing suicide during quarantine. The numbers are fucking outrageous. And I am a suicide advocate. I am a suicide survivor. And, I have kids that go through depression and suicidality and anxiety, and it's like watching my life in slow motion all over again, except it's completely different because I can't compare my issues to their issues. I have to come in clean slate. I have to listen, which is something that's really hard for me to do, but it's a work in progress. But I want to hear your stories. I want to help inspire not just women. I'm not about the whole Me Too movement per se. I think that was something, it's a narrative in Hollywood. Do I think that the women at the time said yes? I think so, yeah. They weren't yelling right back then. And it's not to say that I tried to not give a shit about people's feelings, but I'm blunt. Here's the thing about the Me Too movement, and my marketing team actually tried to push me into that because you'll find out when you read the book. And I said, absolutely fucking not. I don't want anything to do with that hashtag. I don't want anything to do with that movement. I was in a toxic relationship. I felt that I needed this person. Yes, this incident happened, but I was lucky enough to get a beautiful child out of it, and I love her to pieces. Not all teen relationships turn out that way. Some of them turn out violent. One of my high school friends had a very toxic relationship, and he was so toxic and crazy when she broke up with him. On Valentine's Day, he went to her house, killed her mother, and then was stupid enough to take her car, the mom's car, back to high school. Like nothing ever happened. So, is it extreme? Yes. Is it in your face? Yes. My best friend and God-given sister lives all the way in Florida. The book actually makes her very sick because I needed it to be real. Because as I sit here in my nice home in suburban land, my kids have food, that my kids have everything that they fucking want. I don't need anything right now. There are women and men that are being abused. There are men and women and children that are being trafficked. There are men and women and children that are contemplating suicide, and somebody just died right now. Like, people commit suicide every 8 seconds. So it's time to start talking about the things that nobody wants to talk about. And if I can help save one person's life, then all of the tragedies that I talk about in this book were completely worth it. And God gave me an amazing purpose in life, which is to save other lives. And I'm okay with that. So again, my name is Teresa. And you can just call me Dysfunctionally Functional. And I will be meeting with you on Sundays for now. And then I'll work in Wednesdays once I get through some tests. I have some super serious stuff going on. But, I keep a positive attitude. And I 100% implore you to reach out to me. If I don't get back to you in 5 minutes, please do not jump off the ledge. I do answer all of my messages, no matter how late it keeps me up. And I thank you for joining. And please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and go check out my social medias. And I'll see y'all next Sunday. Bye.